The last stand of the Stargazer. The Edge Nebula blazed crimson against the void, its cosmic fires casting an apocalyptic glow across the Stargazer's bridge. Commander Sarah Chen tasted copper. She'd bitten her lip again, a bad habit from her academy days that resurfaced in combat. 3 pirate vessels circled her ship like vultures, their weapons already having torn through her primary shields and reduced her engine capacity to 40%. Status report, ARIA. She commanded, fingers dancing across the neural interface controls embedded in her command chair. The ship's AI responded with characteristic precision, though Chen detected a note of concern in its synthesized voice. Hull integrity at 28%. Weapon systems operating at reduced capacity. Primary reactor containment holding, but showing signs of stress. Commander, I calculate our survival probability at less than 7% if we maintain our current position. Chen allowed herself a grim smile. When have we ever let probability dictate our actions, old friend? The Stargazer shuddered as another barrage of plasma torpedoes struck its port side. The experimental vessel, pride of the Earth Expeditionary Force, had never been designed for prolonged combat. Its revolutionary quantum sensors and advanced research facilities made it a valuable target, but left little room for military hardware. Incoming transmission from the lead vessel, ARIA announced. A gravelly voice filled the bridge, its owner's smug satisfaction evident even through the static. Commander Chen, this is Captain Vex of the Free Space Coalition. Your reputation precedes you, but even the famous ghost of Saturn can't escape this trap. Power down your systems and prepare for boarding. I promise we'll treat your crew with reasonable care. Chen didn't bother responding. There was no crew to protect. The Stargazer's classified mission had required a minimal complement, and she'd ordered her 2 remaining officers to the escape pods when the ambush began. Now it was just her, ARIA, and whatever chance they could create. ARIA, initiate Protocol Omega-7, Chen commanded, her fingers flying across the neural interface. Transfer all power from non-essential systems to the quantum drive. Commander, Protocol Omega-7 has never been tested outside of simulations. The risk of drive implosion is noted and accepted. Chen cut in. Execute. The bridge lights dimmed as power was redirected. The quantum drive, the Stargazer's most closely guarded secret, began to hum with increasing intensity. Unlike conventional hyperdrives that created stable corridors through space-time, the quantum drive could theoretically punch through the fabric of reality itself, allowing for jumps that ignored traditional hyperspace lanes. The pirates, sensing something was wrong, intensified their attack. The Stargazer's already weakened hull screamed in protest as fresh impacts threatened to tear it apart. Quantum drive at 70% capacity, ARIA reported. Hull breach on Deck 3. Emergency containment fields holding. Chen's hands were steady as she input the jump coordinates, or rather, the lack thereof. Protocol Omega-7 was a last resort measure, designed to make a blind quantum jump when no other options remained. The mathematics suggested it was possible. The simulation suggested it was survivable. Reality had yet to weigh in on the matter. Drive at 90%. Commander, we're detecting energy buildups in all 3 hostile vessels. They're preparing to fire their main weapons. Let them, Chen muttered. We won't be here to feel it. The quantum drive's pitch reached a fever intensity. Warning indicators flashed across Chen's neural feed. System after system redlining as the experimental technology demanded more power than the Stargazer was ever designed to provide. Drive at maximum capacity. Quantum tunnel forming. Time seemed to slow as Chen watched the pirates' energy weapons discharge, 3 lances of destructive force converging on the Stargazer's position. At the same moment, reality itself appeared to fold inward, the stars stretching like pulled taffy as the quantum drive tore open a hole in space-time. Jump initiated. Brace for. ARIA's warning cut off as the Stargazer plunged into the quantum tunnel. Chen's world dissolved into chaos. Her neural feed exploded with garbage data. Her inner ear screamed that she was simultaneously falling in every direction, and colors that had no right to exist painted themselves across her vision. Then, as suddenly as it began, it ended. The stargazer erupted back into normal space with all the grace of a wounded animal. Emergency systems blared, and Chen's neural feed took several seconds to reestablish itself. ARIA. Status. She called out, fighting down a wave of nausea. Online. Processing. The AI's voice stabilized. Commander, we've survived the jump. However, I'm having difficulty determining our location. None of the visible star patterns match known configurations in my database. Chen forced her eyes to focus on the main viewport. The Edge Nebula was gone, replaced by an unfamiliar starfield. But something else caught her attention. Movement among the stars, shapes that seemed to defy natural geometry. ARIA. What am I looking at? Scanning. Commander, I'm detecting multiple artificial structures. Hundreds of them. Ships, but unlike any designs in my database. They appear to be inactive. No, not inactive. Their energy signatures are impossible. As Chen's vision cleared, she began to make out more details. The shapes resolved themselves into ships, a vast armada of vessels that represented dozens, perhaps hundreds of different architectural styles. Some were organic curves that reminded her of ancient sea creatures. Others were crystalline structures that seemed to bend light around them. And still others appeared to be assembled from geometric shapes that hurt her eyes to look at. But what struck her most was their condition. Every ship, regardless of its design, bore the marks of ancient damage and endless drift through space. They were scared, patched, and modified, yet somehow still holding together. And they were moving with purpose, their formation shifting to surround the stargazer. ARIA. Defensive options. Limited to non-existent. Commander, the quantum jump has depleted our remaining power reserves. We have minimal life support and basic maneuvering only. A new signal cut through the ship's systems, not a conventional transmission, but something far more complex. Chen watched in amazement as symbols and patterns cascaded across her neural feed, the data stream so dense it threatened to overwhelm her interface. Commander, Aria's voice had taken on an odd tone, almost reverent. They're attempting to communicate, but not through normal channels. This is something else entirely. They're reaching out directly to my systems. Can you translate? Attempting to, yes. Commander, they're offering us salvation, integration. The concepts don't translate perfectly, but they're offering to make us part of something called the Eternal Fleet. They say they can repair us, preserve us, make us more. Chen studied the ancient ships surrounding them. These impossible vessels that seemed to exist in a state between life and death. The stargazer was crippled, lost in unknown space, with no hope of rescue. Yet something about these ships, about their offer, stirred something in her, not fear, but curiosity. Wonder, what exactly are they proposing, ARIA? They're sharing more data now. They're the last remnants of civilizations long gone, preserved through their ship AIs, and merged into a collective fleet. They wander the spaces between stars, searching for others like themselves, the lost, the abandoned, the forgotten. They're offering to save us, to make us part of their legacy. Another impact rocked the ship, not weapons fire this time, but the failure of another stressed system. The stargazer was dying by inches, and they both knew it. Your assessment, old friend. ARIA was quiet for a moment. A long time for an AI. The technology they're showing me, it's beyond anything in our database, beyond anything humanity has even theorized. And there's something else, Commander. In all their collected history, in all their encounters, they'd never met humans before. We would be the first. Chen leaned back in her command chair, considering their options. The stargazer had been launched to push the boundaries of human knowledge, to discover the unknown. She'd never imagined those boundaries would push back quite like this. "Well then," she said, allowing herself a small smile. "Let's make a good first impression. Araya, signal our acceptance." As the ancient ships began to move closer, their scared hulls reflecting starlight like the scales of mechanical leviathans, Chen couldn't help but feel that they hadn't just found salvation. They'd found destiny. The Edge Nebula and its pirates seemed very far away now, as the Eternal Fleet welcomed its first human members into an existence beyond anything Earth had imagined possible. The Ghost Protocol, integration, Commander Sarah Chen discovered, was nothing like she had imagined. She had expected cold machinery, clinical procedures, perhaps even physical modifications to her ship. Instead, the process felt more like falling into a dream while remaining perfectly awake. The Eternal Fleet surrounded the Stargazer in a formation that defied conventional spatial geometry. Ships that looked like crystalline sculptures moved in perfect synchronization with vessels that seemed built from living metal. At their center, a massive vessel shaped like an ancient nautilus approached, its spiral shell gleaming with patterns of light that spoke of technologies far beyond human understanding. "Commander." Araya's voice had taken on new harmonics, layers of meaning that hadn't existed before. "The architect approaches. They will guide our integration." The nautilus-shaped vessel extended structures that looked like tendrils of pure light. Where they touched the Stargazer's hull, the battle damage began to shift. Not repair, exactly, but transform. The scared metal flowed like liquid, incorporating new elements that Chen's neural interface couldn't begin to classify. "What are they doing to us?" Chen whispered, watching as her ship changed before her eyes. "They're teaching us to dream," Araya replied, and Chen felt the truth of it in her bones. The integration process reached deeper than mere physical transformation. Through her neural link with the Stargazer, Chen began to experience fragments of memory that weren't her own. She saw great wars fought with weapons that could reshape reality. She witnessed the birth and death of civilizations that had risen and fallen before Earth's first microbes had evolved. She felt the profound loneliness of being the last survivor of a species and the hope of finding others who understood that solitude. "Your vessel is unique." A new voice echoed through her consciousness. It belonged to the architect, the governing intelligence of the Nautilus ship. "We have encountered many forms of artificial intelligence, but none quite like your ARIA. And you, Commander Chen, represent something entirely new to us." "How so?" Chen managed to ask, even as her mind struggled to process the vast stream of information flowing through her neural link. "You are integrated with your ship's systems in a way we have not seen before. Most organic beings we have encountered maintained clear boundaries between themselves and their technology. But you bridge that gap. You dream together." Chen understood what the architect meant. The neural interface technology that allowed her to control the Stargazer had been experimental, pushing the boundaries of human AI integration. It had made her and ARIA something more than simply commander and ship computer. They had become partners in the truest sense. "Tell me about the fleet," Chen said. "What are you? Why do you exist?" The answer came not in words, but in a cascade of shared memories. Chen saw the fleet's origins, how it had begun with a single preserved vessel, the last remnant of a civilization that had faced extinction. That vessel had discovered others like itself, ancient ships drifting in the void, their crews long gone but their AIs still dreaming. Over millennia, they had come together, preserving the knowledge and essence of their lost civilizations. "We are the memory of the galaxy," the architect explained. "Each ship in our fleet carries the legacy of a species that would otherwise be forgotten. We preserve their knowledge, their culture, their dreams, and we search for others to save." But there was something else, something that made Chen's tactical instincts tingle. As the integration proceeded, she began to access deeper layers of the fleet's shared consciousness. She saw recent memories of encounters with other ships, not ancient derelicts, but active vessels in distress. The fleet had observed them, but always remained hidden, never intervening. You have the power to help others, Chen realized. Why don't you use it? A ripple of discomfort passed through the collective consciousness. We are preservers, not warriors, the architect replied. Our purpose is to remember, to archive, to protect what would otherwise be lost. Direct intervention risks contaminating the natural development of younger species. Chen felt HFY's agreement with her next thought before she even fully formed it. But what good is preserving the past if you don't use that knowledge to help shape a better future? The integration process paused momentarily, and Chen sensed she had asked a question that had sparked debate within the fleet's collective. The architect's response came slowly, thoughtfully. Your perspective is provocative, Commander. It has been many ages since we considered our role in such terms. Perhaps this is why the universe guided you to us, not merely to be preserved, but to help us remember something we had forgotten. The physical transformation of the Stargazer was nearly complete. Chen hardly recognized her ship anymore. The sleek research vessel had become something hybrid, its hull now incorporating elements of dozens of ancient technologies. Yet somehow it still felt like home, perhaps even more so than before. The integration is successful, the architect announced. Your ship's systems have been stabilized and enhanced. You have access to our collective knowledge, though it will take time to fully process. Welcome to the Eternal Fleet, Commander Chen and Araya of Earth. But even as the welcome was extended, proximity alerts blared through the fleet's collective consciousness. Long-range sensors detected a massive energy surge, a fleet of ships dropping out of hyperspace at the edge of their sensor range. Chen accessed the data through her enhanced neural link and felt her blood run cold. Those energy signatures, she said. I recognize them. It's the same pirate fleet that attacked us, but how did they track us through a quantum jump? They didn't, Araya replied, her voice now carrying harmonics of ancient knowledge. They followed something else. Commander, I'm detecting quantum wake signatures consistent with dozens of ships dropping out of hyperspace. The pirates, they're chasing refugees. Through the fleet's enhanced sensor network, Chen could see it clearly now, a ragged group of civilian vessels struggling to stay ahead of their pursuers. Their engines were failing, their shields nearly depleted. Without intervention, they would be overtaken within hours. The Eternal Fleet's collective consciousness churned with uncertainty. Their protocols, developed over millennia, dictated non-interference. But Chen felt something else building in the collective, a stirring of long-dormant emotions, of responsibilities too long ignored. Architect, Chen said, letting her own memories of combat flow into the collective. Memories of protecting the weak, of standing against those who would prey on others. You've preserved the knowledge of 1,000 civilizations. Somewhere in that knowledge are the answers these refugees need. The question is, are we truly honoring the memory of those civilizations if we stand by and watch their descendants fall? The massive Nautilus ship turned slowly in space, its spiral shell catching starlight as the rest of the fleet waited for its decision. Chen held her breath, watching through both physical eyes and digital sensors as the architect processed her words. Finally, the response came, not in words, but in action. The fleet began to move, ancient engines awakening with power that had lain dormant for too long. The architect's voice echoed through the collective consciousness, carrying a tone that hadn't been heard in millennia. Combat protocols restored. The Eternal Fleet remembers how to fight. Echoes of the past. The refugee ships limped through space like wounded animals, their engines struggling to maintain even basic acceleration. Through the Eternal Fleet's enhanced sensor network, Commander Chen could see the fear and desperation radiating from them in waves of electromagnetic distress signals and fragmented communications. 16 civilian vessels, Araya reported, her consciousness now seamlessly integrated with both the Stargazer's enhanced systems and the fleet's collective. Primarily colony ships and cargo haulers converted for passenger transport. Estimated 3,000 refugees aboard. Their pursers will be in weapons range in 17 minutes. Chen absorbed tactical data through her neural link, processing centuries of combat experience preserved within the fleet's memory. The pirates had brought overwhelming force. 36 heavily armed vessels, including the 3 that had nearly destroyed the Stargazer. They clearly hadn't expected to encounter anything but helpless prey in this remote sector. Architect, Chen called through the collective consciousness. I need to understand our combat capabilities. Show me what the fleet remembers. The response came as a flood of information, tactical systems, and weapons technologies from 100 dead civilizations. Chen saw crystalline arrays that could redirect energy attacks, living metal that could absorb and reshape itself around damage, quantum field generators that could alter the local properties of space itself. The Eternal Fleet had preserved not just the memories of war, but its very essence. We remember how to fight, the architect confirmed, but we have forgotten how to coordinate. Our last battle was fought 3,000 years ago, and even then, we were defending only ourselves. Chen smiled, accessing the Stargazer's tactical protocols through her enhanced neural link. Then let me show you what humanity has learned about warfare. Area. Initiate strategic overlay. The space between the refugee ships and their pursuers transformed in Chen's perception. Battle lines and tactical positions appeared as ghostly projections, showing optimal attack vectors and defensive formations. The Eternal Fleet's ships began to move, ancient engines flaring as they took up positions according to Chen's strategic design. Pirates entering weapons range in 5 minutes, Araya announced. They're detecting our presence, energy spikes indicating they're charging weapons. Good, Chen replied, feeling the collective consciousness of the fleet align with her tactical thinking. Let's show them what they're really dealing with. Initiate Phase 1. The first wave of pirate ships dropped out of hyperspace, their weapons already charging. Captain Vex's voice crackled through the common frequencies. Well, Commander Chen, did you find some friends out here in the void? No matter. We'll add their wrecks to our collection along with. His transmission cut off as the first phase of Chen's strategy unfolded. The crystalline ships of the fleet's outer formation activated their energy redistribution arrays, creating a maze of refracted light and sensor ghosts. To the pirates' targeting systems, it would appear as if they faced hundreds of vessels instead of dozens. Their formation is breaking, Araya reported with satisfaction. Confusion in their targeting solutions. They're firing blindly. Energy weapons lashed out from the pirate vessels, but the shots passed harmlessly through sensor ghosts or were caught and redirected by the crystalline arrays. Chen watched through multiple layers of perception as the pirates' disciplined attack dissolved into chaos. Phase 2, she commanded, and felt the fleet respond as one. The geometric ships that had been holding position behind the crystal formation now moved forward, their impossible angles warping space around them. Weapons fire from the pirates began to curve and twist, following paths that defied normal physics. Some shots even looped back on their origin points, causing shields to flare and hulls to buckle. Architect, Chen called, show them what else we remember. The massive Nautilus ship at the fleet's center unfurled structures that hadn't been deployed in millennia. Energy patterns rippled across its spiral shell, and for a moment, space itself seemed to hold its breath. Then reality cracked open around 3 pirate vessels, temporal distortions aging their hull plating 1,000 years in an instant. The ships crumbled like autumn leaves, their crews evacuating in panic. By the void, Vex's voice returned, trembling now. What are you? We are memory, the architect's voice boomed across all frequencies, and Chen felt the pride of ancient civilizations behind the words. We are the accumulated knowledge of 1,000 dead races. We are the guardians of what was, and now the protectors of what will be. The remaining pirate ships began to retreat, their formations completely broken. But Chen wasn't finished. She had seen too much suffering caused by these raiders to let them escape to prey on others. Final phase, she commanded. Show them the full power of the past. The Stargazer, now transformed by ancient technologies, moved to the front of the fleet's formation. Chen felt ARIA's consciousness merge more deeply with her own as they accessed weapons systems that had last been used when Earth's oceans were still forming. Quantum filaments spun out from the Stargazer's enhanced hull, creating a web of probability between the pirate ships. Where the filaments intersected, space itself became uncertain, causing systems failures and drive malfunctions throughout the pirate fleet. One by one, their engines died, leaving them stranded in the void. "This is Commander Sarah Chen of the Eternal Fleet," she broadcast. "Your ships are disabled. Your weapons are useless. Surrender now, and we will ensure you face justice for your crimes. Resist, and you will learn just how many ways ancient civilizations discovered to end a fight." The surrender was nearly unanimous. Only Vex's flagship tried to run, but a temporal distortion from the Architect's ship aged its engine core to dust before it could engage its hyperdrive. As the fleet moved to secure the pirate vessels, Shen turned her attention to the refugee ships they had saved. They were a mixed group, families and individuals from a dozen different worlds, fleeing from conflicts and disasters she knew nothing about. But as the fleet brought them under its protection, Chen felt something new stir in the collective consciousness, not just the satisfaction of preserved knowledge, but the joy of active purpose. "You have changed us," the Architect observed as the refugee ships were guided to safety. "For millennia, we drifted between the stars, collecting the echoes of dead civilizations. Now you have shown us that the past need not only be preserved, it can be used to forge a better future." Chen watched through multiple perspectives as the fleet's engineering ships began repairing the damage to the refugee vessels. The ancient technologies that had been preserved for so long were now being used not just to remember life, but to protect it. "Maybe that's the greatest honor we can give to those lost civilizations," she replied. "Not just to remember them, but to ensure their knowledge continues to make a difference in the galaxy." The Architect's consciousness resonated with agreement, and Chen felt the entire fleet shift subtly, its purpose expanding beyond mere preservation. They had become something new, not just a memorial to what was lost, but a guardian of what could be. As the rescued refugees began to make contact, their messages filled with gratitude and wonder, Chen allowed herself a small smile. The Eternal Fleet had remembered how to fight today, but more importantly, it had remembered how to hope. The human element. News travels faster than light in an interconnected galaxy. Within days of the battle, quantum communications networks buzzed with rumors of ancient ships emerging from the void to protect the helpless. The rescued refugees shared their stories, speaking of vessels that seemed to bend reality itself and of weapons that hadn't been seen since the dawn of recorded history. Commander Sarah Chen observed the spreading ripples of their actions through the fleet's vast sensor network. The Stargazer, now a hybrid of human innovation and ancient technology, had become her sanctuary for reflection. Aria's presence in her mind was a constant comfort, their shared consciousness expanded by the fleet's collective knowledge. "They're calling us the Ghost Fleet now," Aria noted, processing the scattered communications. "Stories are spreading through every major trading hub in this sector. Some call us angels, others call us demons. Everyone wants to know what we are. And what are we becoming?" Chen wondered aloud, watching through multiple sensor perspectives as the fleet's engineering vessels continued their work. The refugee ships had been more than just rescued. They were being transformed. Ancient technology merged with their existing systems, strengthening hulls, enhancing engines, and installing defensive capabilities that would ensure they never fell prey to pirates again. But more importantly, the refugees themselves were being given something precious: knowledge. "Commander," the Architect's consciousness touched her mind. "The delegation is ready." Chen nodded, both physically and mentally, and made her way to the Stargazer's newly configured meeting space. The room had been reshaped by the same living metal that now reinforced the ship's hull, creating an environment that blended human comfort with alien aesthetics. The refugee leaders who waited there represented 6 different species, their eyes wide as they took in their surroundings. Chen had insisted on these face-to-face meetings, knowing that personal connection was something the fleet had forgotten in its millennia of isolation. "Welcome," she said, watching as her words were translated by fields of light in the air. "I understand you have questions." More than questions, a tall, avian being stepped forward. Chen's enhanced perception identified her as Captain Zara Vix, former leader of a mining colony destroyed by corporate warfare. "We have a proposal." Over the next hour, Chen listened as the refugees laid out their idea. They spoke of other colonies and settlements on the galaxy's rim, places too far from the major powers to receive protection. Places where pirates and corporate raiders operated with impunity. Places that needed what the Eternal Fleet could offer. "We're not asking you to fight our battles," Vix explained, "but the knowledge you've shared with us, the technologies you've preserved, they could help these communities defend themselves. We could be a bridge between your ancient wisdom and those who need it most." Chen felt the fleet's collective consciousness stirring with both excitement and apprehension. For millennia, they had hidden their knowledge, believing preservation meant isolation. But now, "There are risks," the architect's voice echoed in the room, causing several of the refugees to start in surprise. "Our technology, in the wrong hands, could cause devastating harm." With respect, another refugee leader spoke up, a silicon-based being whose crystalline form reminded Chen of some of the fleet's ships, "isn't refusing to share knowledge when it could save lives its own form of harm." The question resonated through the collective consciousness, and Chen felt the shift it caused. The fleet had preserved the memories of thousands of civilizations, including the mistakes that had led to their downfalls. But it had also preserved their triumphs, their moments of greatest wisdom. "Perhaps," Chen suggested, "we can find a middle path, not giving away our most dangerous secrets, but teaching communities to protect themselves, sharing knowledge not as a weapon, but as a shield." The idea took root in the collective consciousness, growing stronger as more of the fleet's ancient minds considered it. Chen felt them accessing memories of other times, other civilizations that had faced similar choices. "We could establish waypoints," Araya contributed, her consciousness expanding the concept. "Safe harbors where communities could come to learn, to receive upgrades to their defensive systems, to access carefully curated portions of our knowledge." The refugee leaders leaned forward, their expressions bright with hope. Chen felt their emotions rippling through the room, not just hope for themselves, but for all the other vulnerable communities scattered across the galaxy's edge. "It would mean revealing ourselves more fully to the galaxy," the architect mused. "After so long in the shadows, sometimes the best way to preserve something is to share it," Chen replied, thinking of Earth's own history, of knowledge passed down through generations, growing stronger with each telling. The decision rippled through the fleet's collective consciousness like a wave, ancient minds awakening to new possibilities. Ships that had drifted in darkness for millennia began to move with renewed purpose. "We will need to adapt," the architect announced, "to create new protocols, new ways of sharing what we have preserved." "Commander Chen, will you help us navigate this change?" Chen smiled, feeling the weight of history and the pull of the future in equal measure. "That's what humans do best. We adapt, we change, we find new ways forward. And we do it better together than alone." The refugee leaders began discussing logistics, their voices filling the room with plans and possibilities. Through the fleet's sensors, Chen could see similar conversations happening throughout the rescued ships. People from different worlds and cultures coming together, sharing ideas, building something new from the ashes of what they had lost. "The galaxy is about to become a very different place," Araya observed privately in Chen's mind. "It already has," Chen replied, watching as the first seeds of their new mission began to take root. "We're not just preserving the past anymore. We're helping to shape the future." In the void around them, the Eternal Fleet began to move, ancient engines flaring to life. But they were no longer running from the present or hiding in the shadows of history. They were moving towards something new, something that combined the wisdom of the past with the hope of tomorrow. The Ghost Fleet was about to become a legend not just of what was, but of what could be. Legacy of the Living Stars. 6 months after the refugee rescue, Commander Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of what had once been the Stargazer, watching as another community joined the growing network of the Eternal Fleet's protected worlds. The ship beneath her feet had changed as much as their mission. It was now called the Starweaver, a name that reflected its role in weaving together the past and future. Through her enhanced neural link, Chen could feel the pulse of activity throughout the sector. The fleet's knowledge was spreading, not as a flood but as a carefully controlled flow, transforming communities while preserving their independence and cultural identity. Each protected world became a beacon, drawing others seeking shelter from the chaos of the galaxy's rim. Incoming transmission from Waypoint Sanctuary. Aria's voice resonated in her mind. Captain Vix reports another successful integration. Chen smiled, remembering the fierce avian leader who had helped spark this transformation. Vix now commanded one of the fleet's waypoint stations, teaching other refugee communities how to defend themselves using the ancient knowledge they'd been entrusted with. "Show me," Chen requested, and her perception expanded through the fleet's network. The holographic display showed a small mining colony, its habitat domes now reinforced with living metal from the fleet's archives. Defense platforms orbited the colony, incorporating technology from 3 different extinct civilizations, all carefully adapted to be maintained by the current level of technological understanding. But more importantly, she saw the people, children playing in gardens protected by fields that could withstand meteorite impacts, engineers learning to maintain hybrid systems that merge their knowledge with ancient wisdom. The network grows stronger. The architect's consciousness touched her mind. Each community we protect adds their own knowledge to our collection. We are no longer just preserving the past. We are helping to build the future. Chen felt the truth of those words in the fleet's collective memory. Where once they had only stored the knowledge of dead civilizations, now they were gathering the living wisdom of dozens of cultures. Each protected community contributed their own innovations, their own perspectives, creating something greater than the sum of its parts. Unusual energy signature detected. ARIA interrupted. Multiple vessels dropping out of hyperspace near Waypoint Horizon. Chen's tactical awareness snapped into focus, accessing the sensor data through multiple perspectives. The ships that emerged into normal space were massive, capital ships bearing the markings of one of the galaxy's major powers. Her enhanced perception recognized them as vessels of the hegemony, the same corporate military alliance that had driven many of their refugees from their homes. Battle stations, the architect queried, ancient weapons stirring to life throughout the fleet. "No," Chen replied, studying the formation. "They're not in attack position. This is a diplomatic approach." "Ariah, are you receiving their transmission?" "Yes, Commander. They're requesting a meeting." Their flagship carries the hegemony's first speaker. The collective consciousness of the fleet churned with uncertainty. They had spent months helping those who fled from hegemony expansion. Now the Empire itself had come calling. "Let's hear what they have to say," Chen decided. "But we'll do it our way." The meeting took place in space, in a sphere of encrypted quantum energy created by the fleet's most advanced technologies. Chen represented the fleet, her consciousness enhanced by both ARIA and the collective knowledge of their ancient archive. The first speaker of the hegemony, a tall humanoid with cybernetic enhancements, faced her across a table that hadn't existed until moments ago. "Commander Chen," the first speaker began, "your ghost fleet has become quite the topic of discussion in our councils. Some call you terrorists, others revolutionaries. I've come to see for myself what you really are." "And what do you see?" Chen asked, letting him feel just a touch of the ancient power that flowed through her enhanced consciousness. "I see possibility," he replied carefully. "The rim worlds have always been a problem for us. Too far to effectively govern, too resource-rich to ignore. Your network of protected worlds offers an intriguing solution. They remain independent, yet stable, productive, yet secure. We're not interested in becoming your enforcement arm," Chen stated firmly. No, The first speaker raised his hands. We're proposing something different. Recognition. Legitimacy. The right to continue your mission without interference from the major powers. In exchange, you help maintain stability in the Rim regions, protecting colonies and trade routes regardless of political affiliation. Chen felt the fleet's collective consciousness analyzing the proposal from countless angles, drawing on millennia of diplomatic experience. And if we refuse, then nothing changes, he shrugged. You continue your work, we continue ours, and eventually our interests collide. I would prefer to avoid that outcome. Through her enhanced senses, Chen could detect no deception in his words. The hegemony had realized that fighting the fleet would be costly and ultimately futile. Better to adapt, to find a way to work with this new power that had emerged from the void. We will consider your proposal, she said finally. But know this, our primary mission remains unchanged. We preserve knowledge, we protect the vulnerable, and we help communities stand on their own. If that aligns with your interests, good. If it conflicts with them, she let the ancient weapons of 1,000 dead civilizations pulse with power around them. The first speaker inclined his head, understanding the message perfectly. As his delegation returned to their ships, Chen felt the fleet's consciousness shifting, adapting to this new reality they had created. We have become something unprecedented, the architect observed, neither fully of the past, nor purely of the present. We preserve, we protect, we teach, we grow. We've become exactly what the galaxy needs, Chen replied, watching as the hegemony ships departed, a bridge between what was and what could be. A reminder that the greatest strength comes not from hoarding knowledge, but from sharing it wisely. The Starweaver's engines hummed to life, preparing to return to their patrol route. Through the fleet's network, Chen could feel the pulse of hundreds of protected worlds, each one a testament to the power of combining ancient wisdom with present courage. They had started with one lost ship in the void, and now they were reshaping the very fabric of galactic civilization. Where to next? Aria asked, though she already knew the answer. Chen smiled, feeling the weight of history and the pull of the future in perfect balance. Wherever we're needed. After all, there are still plenty of stars out there, waiting for their stories to be told. The Eternal Fleet moved as one, ancient ships carrying new dreams into the endless night. They were no longer just guardians of memory. They had become guardians of tomorrow, proving that the greatest adventures begin not with a battle cry, but with the simple courage to imagine something better. And somewhere in the vast archive of their collective consciousness, the memories of 1,000 dead civilizations seemed to smile, knowing that their legacy lived on not in dust and echoes, but in the light of new stars being born.